I think first and foremost, people want to be heard. And so part of my job is to let them talk to me about whatever the issue is. And so that's fine. Let's have that discussion. Let me hear what your issue is. I know you said we can't always problem solve, but I really do like to do that. So even if I don't have, the answer as far as me as the deputy reeve or the counselor, maybe I am able to facilitate a meeting with their MLA or with their school trustee. Maybe I am able to, point them in the right direction to, someone in the community that might be able to help them or, be that point of contact for them. Like I said, I might not be the person to actually physically solve the problem, but I certainly feel like I am in a position to help them and guide them in a way that maybe we can find the right person that can help them in that way.
Welcome to Cross Border Interviews, the show where we dive into the insights of municipal political leaders. Our mission on this show is quite simple: shine a light on the dedicated individuals who day in and day out work around the council table to shape the communities that we call home. And joining us for today's episode is County of Grande Prairie Deputy Reeve Amanda Frayn. The County of Grande Prairie Council has a vision to be first in building sustainable, prosperous, and safe communities. People from all corners of the globe are discovering the unique and vibrant urban rural lifestyle in all four corners of the county. Friendly and affordable communities, a diverse economy, vast landscapes, and plenty of indoor and outdoor amenities are all driving the county's growing population. No matter your age, the county offers a range of services and programs that provide a high quality of life for all residents alike. Across Canada, our cities, towns, villages, and rural communities are alive with stories waiting to be told. Stories of innovation and economic development, resilience in the face of the housing challenges, and the financial hurdles municipalities overcome every day. At the Cross Border Network, we bring these stories to life. From coast to coast to coast, we're connecting Canadians to the issues shaping our communities and showcasing the people working tirelessly to make them thrive. With your support, we can expand our reach, amplify more voices, and shine a light on the challenges and triumphs of municipal life. For as little as $3.99 a month, you can help us grow and continue sharing the stories that matter most. Join us today and be part of this important mission. Together, we can tell more stories, build stronger communities, and make a real difference. Support the Cross Border Network now. Visit www.crossborderinterviews.ca today. Deputy Reeve, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and discussing the County of Grande Prairie, discussing yourself. It is an honor to have so many municipal leaders come on the show and discuss their duty to serve their communities. And I want to start by getting to know the person behind the persona a little bit and learn a little bit more about who Amanda is besides Deputy Reeve. So before we get into the community part of the interview, I've got to ask, where did your sense of duty to serve your community come from, Amanda?
Yeah, well, it took me a little while. I mean, I grew up in a family that was in municipal politics. My father was a counselor for Division One for the County of Grande Prairie and then also the Reeve for many, many years. And so I kind of grew up in that, but it didn't sort of draw me into it immediately. I was more of a science buff, and so I started my degree of science and then went into paramedicine and became a ground paramedic and fixed wing paramedic and worked in the EMS for many years. But my dad was always a little bit kind of, hey, I think you would be good at this. You're kind of a problem solver. And it really felt like, no, this is your lane. I'm not interested. Plus, I was, quite young at the time. So I was kind of starting out my own stuff. And then a couple more times he would ask, but then I had young kids at the time, and I just didn't feel like I would be able to kind of give it the effort that I felt like the job needed. But after a few more asks and a few more people in the community were sort of bringing it up, like, no, Amanda, I really do think you would be a good fit. You do like to problem solve, and a lot of people in the community. You're from this group, from this area anyway, and from Division One. So then it kind of started just marinating a little bit longer, and this last term had come up. and my kids were, you know, getting to be teenagers, starting to drive themselves. And it kind of did feel like, hey, you know what? I maybe do have some time that I could commit to something like that. I wonder if this would be a good fit. And so I had a couple meetings with some community members in my division, and they were all very supportive of me putting my name forward. And so then, yeah, that kind of spurred that decision. And so, yeah, I put my name forward at the last election in 21.
So, I've got to ask because I'm one of these type of nerds. Who's your father? Because I went back and I looked through all the history books. Unless you're married, I didn't see another Frayn unless they haven't gone back that far. So, who's your father?
Yeah. My father's Everett McDonald.
Okay, okay, I know exactly. Yes, so he was a counselor until or Reeve until 2010, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
You're probably going to know the dates more than me. And then yeah, he did leave and become MLA for a term, and then yeah, has retired out of politics now. Although he sits on multiple committees in the community still.
This is probably one of the rare times I get to ask this question. As someone who followed their father or parent into politics, did you ask about the do's and don'ts about what municipal life was going to be like to him prior to putting your name on the ballot in 2021? Because I know you were acclaimed in 2021, but you still have to prepare yourself for any potential scenario. And as someone who was Reeve, who led the county, I can imagine he has stories to tell you about what the pitfalls can be in a municipal world.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm sure some of those stories maybe made me wait a little longer than other time than if he had given me some other advice. But, you know, between his advice and, you know, just knowing, because he was on council for so long, I knew other counselors like Councillor Beaupre. And so some of those people also were able to give me some advice and kind of lead me in the right direction. But, you know, one of the cool parts though is things are always continuously changing. And that's one of the things I keep going back to my dad and saying, like, things are different. You know, we either there's more committees, or, you know, they might have been busier for MPC at the time. You know, we're maybe a little slower, but we have other community things. And so it's funny how things are the same and yet completely different at the same time. And so it's nice to kind of go back and have those conversations with him and take that information forward. But it's also nice to kind of forge my own area and sort of be my own person and, you know, and look at it through my lens.
So through that lens, and that is a great jumping off point for the role of a counselor in Deputy Reeve, through that lens, you've had to make some very tough choices. And I'm just saying, I'm generalizing there that
Sure.
council members in general today have to make some very tough decisions, planning, development, the financial realities that we live in. For you, when you make those decisions, what metrics do you put into place as that one vote who gets one vote, just like your other counselors, to ensure that you're doing the best for your community, understanding that you know not everyone is going to agree with you?
Yeah, you know, it's a tough one to kind of quantify because every decision is so nuanced. And so it's hard to say, well, I look at, you know, A, B, and C all the time, and that's exactly how I make my choices. But I feel like so much of my history, and I was thinking about this the other day in preparation of our conversation, you know, coming as a paramedic, I was trained for, you know, 15 years to make very, very important decisions quickly with the information I have at hand. And then further to that, I've been a level 4 swim referee with Swim Canada for more than 10 years. And same idea, you're there to make quick decisions and follow through with them. And so it's kind of funny because it's one of those things that I feel like as you practice stuff like that, you just sort of get better with saying, this is the information I have. This is my morals and my ethics and what I believe I represent in my community. And I feel strongly that I can stand behind this decision. So I feel like even if there's a decision that sometimes isn't necessarily, I know is going to be 100% backed by my residents, if I can stand behind it and say, these are the reasons why I chose this in this moment, then that's all I can do in that chance, right? In that moment of time. And if I get new information or if we have new stuff come forward, then hey, let's open that discussion and have a further conversation about it. But you really are only given what you're given in that moment, and you have to make that choice right there.
But with that understanding, with the information that you're given at the time is the only information that you have to vote, when you walk into that council chambers, you can't be cemented in the idea you're going to vote one way because another counselor may say something that you may say, didn't think of it that way, so I may have to change my viewpoint and vote a different way. Do you get a sense that you're willing to adapt to information as it arises? Because you say, as a paramedic, as a lifeguard, you've had to do that in the past, but sometimes you're like very last minute when a council vote is coming up because you're hearing everything and you still have those morals and ethics that you stand by, but new information may challenge those morals and ethics. So who wins in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say information at hand, I'm including exactly those conversations.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, it's certainly the package we get, but I mean, I cannot tell you how many times you sort of read a package and you're like, okay, I think I kind of generally understand. And you get into council and administration brings something new, another counselor brings something new, someone from the public brings something new. And you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, or I hadn't considered that to its full value, or I didn't understand that fully. So once you have that, the as big a picture as you possibly can, taking into all of that information, yeah, that's the moment where you say, based on my ethics, my morals, what I fully believe in this moment, I'm going to back this decision, whatever that decision may be.
Is it hard to stay true to your values in today's age when we seem to be more polarized at the municipal level than we have ever been? Because you want to do best for what your community wants, but you have to stick true to your values and your morals. And sometimes they do conflict on a day-to-day basis. So do you find yourself internally struggling with some votes more than others when it comes to financial challenges? Because as a municipal leader, you have to vote on the growth of your community, but the realities is people are struggling today.
Yeah. I feel like some of those struggles happen outside of council. That's
Yeah.
when afterwards or beforehand. But when you're in council and you're just looking at the facts and you're looking at the information and you're hearing the conversation, I feel like so far, most of the decisions have been, this is what I can justify to someone. If someone calls me after the fact and says, why did you vote this way? This is what I can back that discussion with, and it feels pretty confident. Afterwards, that's when you're like, okay, now you can get into that moment where like, okay, well, did I do it this much? Did I think of it this much? What about this? And then you start to, think of all those different things. But in council, I feel like the decisions are good in that moment that you can back them.
Do you get a sense that there's apathy within, and I want to preface this by saying the county of Grande Prairie, but also in Division One of the county of Grande Prairie, when you go ask people for their opinions, are they tuned in enough that they're willing to give you their opinion, or are they going, what are you talking about? Well, we didn't know this was on the agenda and we didn't know this was coming up. Or do you get a sense that people are actually wanting to give you their opinion on the best path forward for the county?
It's a mix. I feel like there is a lot of that communication that's always a frustration. We've had that conversation at council. We put it on the website, we do it on social media, we do all these newsletters, and still we can't seem to get all the information out to the people because inherently we have well, I didn't know about this XYZ. And so we've had that conversation so much as to how we can disseminate that information better to more people. But if I certainly have felt in the one-on-one conversations or reaching out to people that they're very open to giving good constructive criticism. I have very rarely in my just over 3 years as a counselor had someone be very, confrontational or, adversarial anyway with me. They really understand that I'm here to listen to them, and I can't possibly know every issue in my whole division, let alone the whole county. I rely on the residents to let me know what's going on their road or in their community or in, whatever their section of what's happening in their area. And so, I don't see that as someone complaining. I see that as someone giving me the information that I have so that I can then go back to council and say, hey, this is a problem in my area, or this is a problem with this group that's trying to do XYZ in their community. So, I think it depends on how you come at the problem, but for me, I feel like I'm really open to having those discussions. And I hope so far I've felt like people have been very, very open at being able to have those conversations with me.
On the show, I've come into the realization that municipal leaders are dealing with more and more issues that are not in the jurisdictional role of the municipality as they were 20, 30 years ago. I would be hard pressed to say that you probably have been asked about the state of healthcare in the county or the state of education in the county. What do you tell residents who come to you because you are the closest to them? They probably know you a little bit more than they know their MLA or their MP. When they come to you and they say, Deputy Reeve, counselor, I have an issue about the education in our system because they're coming to you for a reason. So, how do you, as a local leader, address those provincial and federal jurisdictional issues, knowing you can't solve those?
Yeah. Yeah. I think first and foremost, people want to be heard. And so part of my job is to let them talk to me about whatever the issue is. And so that's fine. Let's have that discussion. Let me hear what your issue is. I know you said we can't always problem solve, but I really do like to do that. So even if I don't have, the answer as far as me as the deputy reeve or the counselor, maybe I am able to facilitate a meeting with their MLA or with their school trustee. Maybe I am able to, point them in the right direction to, someone in the community that might be able to help them or, be that point of contact for them. Like I said, I might not be the person to actually physically solve the problem, but I certainly feel like I am in a position to help them and guide them in a way that maybe we can find the right person that can help them in that way. So I really have taken on that part of my role. I really love that part of this job. I feel like that's you're an information source basically for people. And that's kind of the exciting part about it is like, okay, how can I help this person? What is the issue? Maybe I don't have the right choice or the right person, but I maybe can get them into the right direction.
Is it hard? Is it hard to balance all those opposing, not opposing, but all those different issues? Because you want the best for your community, but you're probably swamped with people coming up to you, or I shouldn't say swamped, but people coming up to you with a range of different issues, whether it be financial, whether it be education, whether it be something going on municipally. When you have to sit there as a sort of individual counselor, Deputy Reeve, is it hard to balance all those different voices to ensure the betterment of your community, or does it come easy to you?
I think I kind of like the challenge of it all, if I'm being honest. I
I love
mean,
honest politicians. I
yeah,
love it.
I mean, there's probably some times I'm feeling nice today, and maybe there's probably been some moments where I'm like, okay, that's enough. I need to, and I mean, hey, listen, we all have to have boundaries. I mean, there's been a Saturday night where I was like, I mean, it's 10 o'clock. I'm not responding to calls and texts right now. This can wait till, either tomorrow or Monday kind of thing. And sometimes you have to put those boundaries down. I still have busy kids. And so, I have to go and ref a swim meet for my son. That's where my priority for that hour or two. So you have to find those balances and barriers in your life. But, no, if someone wants to reach out and has a question or needs some assistance and I have the ability to give that information, that's part of the job. And yeah, I kind of like that part of it.
Do your kids enjoy the life that mom has led and the fact that they don't get mom time when they're out in the public anymore? It's now Deputy Reeve time 24/7.
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, there's certain parts that they really, really like. I think they like the flexibility that I have, but certainly they are not super interested in like going into the grocery store because usually it ends up being like a long conversation or, I'm just going to have this quick chat. And they're like, no, we've seen this before. We'll see you in 20 minutes kind of thing.
There's no
So
such thing as a quick chat when it comes to municipal politicians. That's what I've learned.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, they know now.
I want to turn to the county as a whole now. And before I do this, as if anyone who's listened to this show, they can fast forward a half 20 seconds or they can stick with us. This is a conversation between the Deputy Reeve and myself. This is not a motion of council. This is not a direction of council. This is not a policy of council. This is the Deputy Reeve's opinion. It may line up with what's going on at council, but at the end of the day, it's still her opinion. She's one vote. A majority of councillors need to vote to pass anything. With that being said, Deputy Reeve, in your opinion, as of recording this in the middle of January 2025, what do you believe is the biggest challenge or challenges facing the county of Grande Prairie today?
I would have to say right now, because we just finished our interim budget and we have some unfunded projects coming forward to final. So right now, I feel like us finding that balance between what we're going to fund at final and, is there going to be a potential increase to rates? And how does that look and who should pay for what, so up until this point, that difference in the last few budgets has been much smaller. This year is a little bit larger of unfunded projects that we're still kind of discussing. And so I feel like for me, even as we go through council and we're looking, even planning forward ahead, that's that one thing that we have some work to do over the next few months in preparation for final.
And when does final expect to be passed? Is it usually after the provincial budget or like right around the same time?
Yeah, it's in April. Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
So infrastructure challenges, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, unfinished projects, is probably one of the biggest challenge that a lot of municipalities are facing right now. How does the county move forward? Because you can't continuously wait for the external factors to dictate what the county can do, and you have to move forward as a county even through the uncertainty that you may have with the sort of financial realities the world is going through. So do you feel like the county is in a place where they're able to balance the growth, the challenges, the projects that you have going on with the economic realities that you have in place today?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are still in a really good position for that, to find that balance. It's just working with our council to sort of decide, what is the more important project today versus on another day. And so, because we are just at that little bit of a larger amount looking at coming into final this year, those decisions don't necessarily become harder, but they become a bigger discussion and kind of what we want to continue to support. Do we want to do it this year? Is it something we can extend over another year? Is there some other funding that we can apply to this? Is this something we come out of reserves for? Those are those final decisions that will come in April. And so I look forward to it. I like the process of it, but it's definitely something that we're just, like I said, we're a little bit further away than we have been in the past. And so it'll be a really interesting discussion come final.
You, as the Division One counselor, as along with Deputy Reeve of the county as a whole, you have to vote on issues and you have to vote on projects that may not specifically impact your division compared to others. When you do look at those projects, do you look at it through a lens of as a county perspective or as a Division One perspective? Because when you go back to your residents in Division One, they're going to say, "What's in this budget for me?" And then you're going to have to explain, "Well, Division Four needs a little bit more help, and we're all in this together, and it's not Division One versus Division Three or Division Five. It's the county as a whole." What do you look through those perspectives to ensure that the county is growing along with Division One?
Yeah, you're right. And it's one of those things where I guess I approach it as I advocate for my division when I can, but I make decisions as the county. Right. So if it does become something that is, hey, this is a Division One project, then I'm here to support it as and I've already had those discussions with the community. I'm not saying like I've never seen this before, right? So, I've already talked to them, I know about it, and I want it, I'm going to promote it and say, hey, I really do think this is important for my community. But then, yeah, exactly. When the decision comes, hey, this isn't from the division in particular, it's a county decision, then you really have to say, okay, is this the best move for the county, regardless of division? And I feel like that's pretty easy to kind of delineate because I can kind of debate and argue and present and advocate for my group, but I can still then go to the next question and look at the whole package and make that decision based on what is the best for the residents as a whole.
Do your residents of Division One understand that narrative that you just explained?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Certainly in the individual conversations I've had with people, they understand that we are elected by division, but we do vote as a county. I mean, that is, I am elected to vote on things that happen in all of the divisions. And then certainly on top of that, as Deputy Reeve, it's even more important to be that way. Because, I am still a counselor for Division One, but as Deputy Reeve, you are even more representative of the whole county. And so, I think anyone, although they might be very, very attached to their project and their thing, in a conversation would be able to understand, as long as I was able to say, hey, this is why I voted this way. They would see it through my eyes.
Sorry, my dogs are just barking. I'm just going to pause there for 2 seconds.
Sure.
I'm assuming the garbage is being picked up right now.
I can't hear anything on my side, but
Okay. If you can't hear anything, that's great. Then I'll continue on. Hopefully, the recording does not pick up the dogs on my side, and if they do, I will edit it out. So I'll jump back in. Uh, you talk about the idea that you are elected as a Division One counselor, but you're sworn in as a County of Grande Prairie counselor, and then you're elected as a deputy Reeve. When you look at those macro issues and those micro issues that people have, is it hard to balance those two perspectives? Because you talk about the growing pains, the incomplete projects that the county has going on, but I'm actually not even going to say that. I know for a fact, because I was just recently up in the county of Grande Prairie last I want to say October or November. Not sure if I was in Division One, but when I was talking to people in the county, I heard very micro issues. I want my paved road. I want that pothole that's in this area fixed. I want more the diversity of the economy in my area, so that way I don't have to travel to these smaller urban centers to get my food or get my groceries. How do you, as council, and you as counselor and deputy Reeve, balance those macro issues with those micro issues? Because when I pay my taxes, I want to feel like my property taxes are going towards something for me. So when the County of Grande Prairie residents pay their taxes, I'm assuming it's the same thing. So how do you balance those two macro issues versus micro individualized issues? And for those who know me, I like to quote Spock off of Star Trek Wrath of Khan: the needs of the many outneeds the way of the few or the one. So how do you balance the needs of the many with the few?
oh boy, I would say individually.
Yes.
So if they are a micro issue, then we have the ability to deal with that at a micro level. Having them have a conversation with our transportation department, or have them call into our ag service department with weeds, or whatever their micro issue may be. We have the ability to work within our staff and our residents to fix some of those little things. And, some of that doesn't need to be blown up into a large, big council discussion. It's just like, you know what? Our grader operator is going to be by there, tomorrow anyway. They're going to whip in and fix that little thing for you because we see that is an issue. Maybe we didn't notice that at the time. And
You
so I
can't
feel
always
like,
say yes to people. You can't always
yeah,
fix the micro issues.
no,
So
it's true.
is it hard to say no to people in your role?
Well, I feel like it's hard to just say no. I don't like to just be like the no person. I like to figure out, okay, well, what is the issue? Is it something that we can fix? If it is, perfect. Let's move forward with that. If it isn't, why? Can't we? Or why shouldn't we? I mean, maybe there's an issue that isn't our job and we shouldn't be, getting involved in that. I mean, and we're talking about generalities right now, so it's hard to, be really specific. But if it's something that, hey, listen, the county shouldn't touch that, that's on private property, or that's something else that we shouldn't be meddling in, then it's educating the resident as to
Yeah.
why we can't do something like that. And so again, it's just further having those conversations and that open dialogue with them to say, it's not just like, nah, I'm not really interested. That's not our property. It's okay, well, why can't we? And this is why we can't. And this is maybe the alley you should go. Maybe you need to talk to them directly. Maybe you can fix it yourself. Maybe there's other avenues for you to rectify it. It's maybe just not through the county avenues. So fixing those micro things can be quite straightforward, or can just be an education. And sometimes it's an education for me. I mean, honestly, even after 3 years, there's just things that come up. You're like, wow, that's never happened before. Or I've never had that complaint before. And let me figure out who you should talk to, because, that's never come up yet. And so it's kind of nice for me, because I get to kind of go through and be like, okay, that is the person you should talk to. And this is why we can't do it. And so then it just gives me sort of more information that I can help the next resident with the next problem. And then further to that, those macro things that do end up maybe escalating or coming to council, then that becomes that bigger discussion. It's not just sort of me and the resident and maybe a staff person or a CEO having those discussions. It's us as a whole council saying, okay, this is a problem. Do we handle it? Is this in our realm? Should we handle it? And those are those conversations that we have every day around our council table.
I want to flip the script a little bit because I'm cautious of time. And we talked about the challenges, which every community has its challenges. County Grand Prairie is not alone in the fact that it has challenges. But every community I speak to, I know they have unique accomplishments that they are proud of. I know they have things that they are so proud of that they need to boast about. What are those accomplishments for the county in your time in office? Let's start there, that you are proud of. That even if you don't run for reelection, which we're going to talk about in 2 seconds here, if you are going to run for reelection, that if you step away on October 2025, you say, I'm happy that we got this done. What
Yeah.
would be those
Yeah.
accomplishments for you?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is the relationship that we have worked really, really hard on this last 3 years with our regional municipal partners. So the relationship that we have with the City of Grande Prairie and with the MD of Greenview, and then all the other smaller communities, even within our own county, so town of Sexsmith, town of Wembley, town of Beaver Lodge, and then even further north of us. We work really hard. We have a lot of regional meetings. We have lots of regional work being done with like Invest Northwest and tri-municipal partnerships. And it's exciting to go to sort of some conferences and have people be like, wow, you guys work so well together. And I don't think that was always the case in the past. And so it's been a lot of work. It's been rewarding work, but I feel like we are in a really good situation where we can have hard and good discussions with those municipalities and feel like we're not being judged or criticized. It's like, listen, we're coming from a county perspective, we're coming from an urban perspective, whatever, but we want to move forward with that. And I feel like all of our councils have really worked really hard over the last 3 years. And so that's kind of the one thing that I feel like we've done a really, really good job on.
And you guys have done a lot on that Invest Northwest. We had we had the Reeve of the County of Grand Prairie, the Reeve of the MD of Greenview, the mayor of the City of Grand Prairie on the show, and it sounds like, and even with the investment in the MD of Greenview, but it does help the entire region as well. It sounds like you guys have got something special going on up there. What do you chalk that up to?
Again, I think it really comes down to 3 years ago, we all said, we're going to work at this relationship. We know that it hasn't been great and we want to do better. And when we started having those discussions about how we could do work better, even within like ICF discussions or those types of things, innately it became, okay, well, where else can we be more successful? And, working on that municipal discussions, and then also that Invest Northwest just sort of built from those discussions. And I feel like, yeah, we are just really in a great place because we want to be able to go somewhere and say, hey, we can provide basically anything. What do you need? The three of us will work together to make that happen. And yeah, it's exciting.
I'm excited to see what 2025. I know there's an event that's coming up, and it's by the through Invest Northwest and the Chamber of Commerce, if I'm not mistaken, about Discover the North. I forget the name, and I apologize right now, but I'm
Probably
hoping to
growing
be
the
there.
north.
Growing the North, that's it. I knew the Deputy Reeve would know that, but I'm hoping to be there for that conference.
Oh, you
So
should. It's a
I
wonderful event. It's a great 2 days. There's so much networking. The speeches will be great. And the keynotes are great this year as well. And so, yeah, please come up. It's a really great conference.
So I want to turn to a topic that I just mentioned a few seconds ago, but I'm going to put you on the record here and I'm going to sort of hold your feet to the fire. But there is an election in less than 10 months' time from when we are talking. October 20th, 20, October 2025 is when the next Alberta municipal elections are. Now, I'm going to say this because I'm one of those nerds that does this and looks back on the history. In 20 years, there has never been an election in Division One of the County of Grand Prairie. Since 2004, every counselor has been acclaimed. That means you as well. So, have you thought about being reacclaimed to the County of Grande Prairie Division One, or have you thought about putting your name up for reoffer in the next election yet?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The acclamation or no is outside of my control. So, but the only thing I do have control over is putting my name forward. And I actually, yeah, I'm absolutely would be proud to put my name forward again for councillor for Division One. It's been a wonderful just over 3 years. I'm looking forward to this last 10 months. Although you're right, it's kind of is a different feeling with the discussions. I've never been a councillor and discussing re-election, so that's a bit of a new process for me. I'm really looking forward to it. It is a wonderful part of my day, and I really look forward to it. I hope I am reelected.
So what do you hope if you are reelected, what do you hope to accomplish in the next term? What do you because the work of municipal life never ends. And I'm assuming the same conversation about the challenges we're talking about now are going to be the challenges we're talking about in probably about 4 more years. Hopefully not, but the reality is right now we could be. What do you hope to see Grande Prairie, the county of Grande Prairie, be in 4 years' time if you are reelected?
Yeah, I feel like you're right. We kind of have these discussions where, what's new, and you sort of think, well, really, it's the sort of these same discussions that we continue to have. You want to have residents that, can afford their bills, can afford their groceries, are happy to go to their jobs and can get there safely, and the schools are safe for their children and they're educated properly. But I feel like, one of the things that kind of keeps coming up in my division is, volunteer stability. And so, I mean, I really want to take all of those problems, absolutely, but also continue to support the residents because I feel like the volunteers in our community are so important. We rely on them so heavily in a county to keep halls open and to keep skating rinks open and to do participant-oriented schools and to run all these community runs and all these types of things that happen so all throughout the county of Grande Prairie. And it's been tough to kind of go to some of these meetings and hear we can't get volunteers or we're struggling with this and how can we, how are we as a non-for-profit going to maintain because we're seeing inflation with insurance and all that type of stuff, let alone as individual residents. So it's supporting that, but it's also trying to support those groups and giving them that direction. And we've worked really, really hard in our recreation department over the last few years to provide them. We actually created a position, and that job is to kind of help them, like, where can they find the right grants that maybe necessarily aren't coming from the county? They can, but some that don't, and how we can support them and also be that go-between where maybe this non-for-profit and this not-for-profit should get together because they could, do more with too. So I feel like we're working really hard in that way. And I think there's some more work to be done because, these groups, they do so much for the county and we need to make sure that we're supporting them as well.
The nonprofit organizations in this country are at a crossroads right now. And this is me speaking. This is not the Deputy Reeve. So if you have any negative emails you want to send, please send them to me, not her. Um, there is a lack of interest from a younger generation. I say younger generation, and it shouldn't paint a broad stroke because we do have organizations like the 4-H Club who have wonderful volunteers, but there doesn't seem to be the engagement around going out and volunteering for your community that there was even 20 years ago or even prior to the pandemic. And I hope organizations and nonprofits and volunteer groups do thrive in the next 5 years because they are the backbone of our communities. They're the ones who make, like you said, the halls run. So I wish you all the best if that is a big challenge because I know you're not the only one facing that in 2020.
Thanks, Chris. Probably the big ticket item is the Philip J. Curry Museum. I think, most people, if you haven't been to Grande Prairie or haven't seen it, it's a definite place you should stop in. They just unearthed a giant Pachyrhinosaurus skull this summer called Big Sam. You can actually see it. You can see them working on it. There's a glass case that you can actually watch them work in their lab. And so it's pretty exciting. And I'm no paleontologist, but I was lucky enough to listen to her speak, and she is so passionate and how exciting and what a special case this is. So if you have a little dinosaur fan in your family, definitely stop there for sure. But my other little secret place, and that would be kind of special because it's in Division One, is Kluskin. I love Kluskin Hills. It's such a wonderful little stop. There's a little campground, there's a picnic area, there's a beautiful museum that you can walk through and see some of the stuff that have, from the history of our area and our community. The Edson Trail connects right through there, so you can actually see the tracks that come from Edson Trail, and then you can walk through the Badlands that actually kind of are exposed through the Kluskin. It's kind of a special little area in our spot. So I'm particular because I live close to there. So
Well, I need to come back to the Clutterton Museum then because I'm a museum fan. So
oh
I've been
yeah.
to the so when I'm up there in February, let's go to the Clutterton Museum.
Good.
I want to turn to my very last question, and it is an important one. We started by talking about you, we're ending by talking about the county. In your opinion, in your words, what makes the county of Grande Prairie such a unique place to live, work, and raise a family?
Oh gosh, that's so hard for me to take myself out of that. I mean, I was born and raised here. So I grew up in the county of Grande Prairie. My father, like I said, I live 300 meters from his land. My family, my great grandfather came on the Edson Trail and homesteaded here in 1911, a mile from where I live. And so we have huge roots of family in this division, in this area, in the Crystal Creek area of the county. And so, being able to grow up on this land close to my grandparents and then raise my children on this land close to my parents has just been such a special relationship. So it's so hard for me to separate that emotion from, the rest of the county because I'm so proud to be here. I'm so proud to live here. And I'm so proud of our community. Going to our community halls or going to our community efforts to, clean up Glen Leslie Cemetery and having 70 volunteers from our community show up. How do you not be just so proud to say I'm from the county of Grande Prairie? And that is not special to the Division One. I mean, I'm surrounded by that, but I know that is the same thing that happens in all 9 divisions of the county of Grande Prairie. And I hear it from other councillors, and I hear it from other residents, and I see it around when you look at Facebook and social media and people trying to fundraise and work together to better their areas. And so I just don't know how you can't be proud to say that this is where we're living and growing and working and having our children. It's a wonderful place to be.
It sounds that way, and sounds like your family has long roots in that area, and I can imagine it will continue to have more roots to come. So, I want to thank you so much, Deputy Reeve, for sitting down with me and doing this interview. It's always a pleasure to learn about the different municipalities from the people who are sitting around the council tables. I think the county is well served with you at the council table. And thank you so much for being part of the show. And I look forward to meeting you in person when I'm up in the county in February.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, we'll see you growing the north.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Cross Border Interviews. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights about one of our great communities here in Alberta. To stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes, don't forget to head over to any of your favorite streaming platforms to subscribe to the show or follow us on social media at Cross Border Networks. Now, for even more content and to learn more about the stories and the people we feature on the show, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Your support means the world to us. So share this episode with your friends, your family, or even your community members. Help us keep the conversation going. So until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time here on Cross Border Interviews. Till then.